Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, the third and final in our Chief Data Officer series, where we will be bringing together industry thought leaders to provide their insights on setting and executing organizational data strategy. I'm Naranjan Thomas, General Manager for the DNA platform and technology partnerships at Dow Jones. In the first webinar, we heard from Simon Smith, Chief Data Officer of News Corp, on setting organizational data strategy. In our second webinar, Sunil Senan, Vice President at Infosys Data and Analytics Unit, guided us through best practices and case studies on how to accelerate organizational data strategy. In case you missed these can both be watched on demand. In today's webinar, we're going to focus on the implementation of data strategy. We're going to do this by diving into a specific case study which features the implementation of Dow Jones DNA within the life sciences industry, where DNA is being used for text mining for competitive intelligence. We have a huge audience tuned in today from across the world. We encourage you to take the opportunity to ask questions, but we do request that these are submitted by the chat function of the webinar, and we'll address these questions at the end of today's presentation. Now, it's my absolute pleasure that we have with us today a panel of data and technology experts from Novo Nordisk, a Dow Jones DNA customer, and Linguamatics, a trusted Dow Jones DNA partner. First, I'd like to introduce Jane Reed from Linguamatics, where Jane is the head of life science strategy. Jane is responsible for developing the strategic vision for Linguamatics' growing product portfolio and business development in the life science domain. Jane has extensive experience in life science informatics. She has worked for more than 20 years in vendors supplying data products, data integration analysis, and consultancy to pharma and biotech organizations, with roles at companies including Instem, BioWisdom, Insight, and Hexagon. Jane, firstly, welcome. And Jane, do you mind spending a few moments just briefly elaborating on the solutions you provide at Linguamatics?
Well, thank you very much, Naranjan, and I'm very glad to be on the webinar today. So just a little bit of background as to what Linguamatics provides with its solution I2E. Linguamatics is a growing and successful company based in the UK and the US. And really the growth is based on the success of our platform I2E, which provides a solution for interactive information extraction. I2E enables agile, scalable, real-time, natural language processing-based text analytics. And I'm going to come on to that in a little bit more detail. So natural language processing, or NLP, is an AI technology for text mining. The key benefit of text mining is that rather than retrieving documents based on keywords that you then need to read yourself, as with standard keyword search, I2E in essence reads the documents for you, identifies the key facts and relationships, and extracts them in a structured form for review and faster analysis. And you can use I2E to connect these facts together in new ways to synthesize knowledge and create actionable insights. Our platform is used a lot in pharma and biotech, as in the use case today, including 18 out of the top 20 global pharma companies, and by an increasing range of healthcare providers, including Kaiser Permanente in the US, and also by government or regulatory bodies such as the FDA.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jane, for that introduction and for that overview. Next, I'd like to introduce Solmaz Gabriel-Adams and Jez Hansen from Novo Nordisk. Solmaz is a senior information scientist at Novo Nordisk, responsible for driving text mining initiatives, as well as laying the architecture for the portfolio of solutions that are needed to enable these solutions for the team of information scientists at Novo Nordisk. Solmaz has a background in bioinformatics and has been since implementing text mining methodologies at client organizations. Jez is a business information scientist at Novo Nordisk and part of the group that's responsible for coordinating text mining efforts, as well as being an avid user of text mining technologies, both in external and internal data sets. So Solmaz and Jez, very warm welcome to you both. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Solmaz, I do have a question for you. Do you mind sharing with us a little bit about Novo Nordisk, including some of your organizational priorities?
Of course. Novo Nordisk is a global healthcare company with an extensive history of innovation and leadership in diabetes care. And this heritage has given us experience and capabilities to defeat other serious chronic diseases as well, such as hemophilia, growth disorders, and obesity. We're currently more than 42,000 employees, collaborating across 79 countries. Our products are marketed in 170 countries, and we actually supply nearly half of the world's insulin, helping almost 28 million patients worldwide. Although it sounds like a lot, we're far from providing the care that all the 425 million people need, because only 1 of 2 are actually aware of this condition. And there's around 4 million deaths caused by the diabetes annually, and it's a huge determination for us to change that. Research information, market information, and news information are all external components that may help us find answers and lead us to a way to reach our goals, the goal of changing diabetes. And finding the accurate information in an ever-growing ocean of information is becoming more important than ever, which is us constantly innovating the way we work. And to be honest, if we don't innovate, we're sort of lost in this ocean of information. So that's why text mining is very important to us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Solmaz. It's an incredible, noble mission that Novo Nordisk fulfills, and we're very proud to be associated and supporting you in that mission at Dow Jones. So now I'd like to jump into the theme for today, which is really implementing text mining for competitive intelligence. So Jane, do you mind telling me a little bit about the value of text mining and some of the outcomes Linguamatics clients are seeing from these analytics projects?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that Solmaz just talked about is almost kind of drowning in a sea of data. And so much of the data that our scientists and clinicians and researchers have to access is in unstructured text. And if you think about this, the slide here is showing the sort of whole drug discovery pathway from discovery, pre-discovery, that gene disease mapping, right through into clinical, into regulatory review, and then into post-market, and obviously into the delivery of healthcare. And all the way along this whole pipeline, there are going to be points where people need to make decisions in order to take a particular project forward or not. And much of the information that they need those decisions to be based on will be in unstructured text. And we have found our customers have been able to find value in being able to use a text mining tool to transform, to do that data transformation and extract the key information from unstructured text. And that's been early on in drug discovery. So for gene disease mapping, imagine if you're trying to pull out all the genes for a particular cancer, or for Alzheimer's, for example, from literature, or you want to be able to look through patents to pull out information on novel chemistries that other competitors are creating, or you want to do biomarker discovery, or does that make sure you've got the best protocol for clinical trial site, pull out information on real world evidence or key opinion leader identification. These are all areas where customers have come to us and said, we know that you have an NLP tool that we've used in one particular area. How can we apply the same tool in pharmacovigilance, or in health economics and outcomes research, or in drug repurposing? So this is really a snapshot of some of the many different ways our customers are finding value from using natural language processing to really transform text for decision support.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jane. So really, unstructured data represents such a rich source of intelligence. Jane, can you share with us a little bit about what's required to dive into these insights, and particularly the role of natural language processing?
Yeah, so I've got a few slides on this. So first of all, we have to think about the challenges that everyone will recognize when you're trying to find information in unstructured text. So on the bottom line is there are very many ways to say the same thing. So on the top quadrant here, it's a very simple one. It's a whole lot of synonyms for a particular drug, a particular compound, cyclosporin. And imagine if you're trying to find all the adverse events, for example, for this particular drug, you'll need to know all these different names. Now that's pretty straightforward. You can handle that with a good dictionary. The top right-hand side, there is more complex, where here you've got a different expression for the same meaning. Now, you can't really imagine, building a dictionary where something like does not drink or smoke is used as a synonym, a hard-coded synonym for non-smoker. But you still need to make sure that if you're looking through patient records and you want to understand information around patients that are smokers or non-smokers, you can capture these different expressions. The bottom left is similar to that one. So here we've got a different grammar. So again, thinking about looking for therapeutic thresholds, for example, where you're trying to understand at what particular dosage of a drug are you going to get a good efficacy, or again, maybe tipping over into adverse events. So here, 5 mg per kg per day of a particular drug. And there are very many different grammatical phrases of ways of saying that. So the last one, bottom right-hand corner, is different again, where here the keyword that, again, thinking of a patient record, you're looking for information on patients with diabetes. So here, being the context is critical. Being diagnosed with diabetes is very different from a family history of diabetes. But again, that's really different from no family history of diabetes. So we need text analytic tools to make sense of all this information, all these different ways people say the same thing, and bring us back the key facts. And natural language processing, or NLP, can recognize and interpret these different concepts and different grammatical structures and the context. So if we go on to the next slide, I've got a little bit more detail about that. So in the very center, we've got a fragment of text. So you've got the fragment says, among them, nimesulide, a selective COX-2 inhibitor. Now, what natural language processing does is the linguistic processing within an NLP tool will take that phrase and break it down into the parts of speech. It will work out which is the noun, which is the object, where is the relationship, and so forth. And so you can see in the bubbles, we've got that nimesulide has been identified as a compound. And here we've tagged it with a particular structure. On the right-hand side, you can see COX-2 has been tagged as identified as a particular gene, and again, tagged with an identifier. And then the relationship between the drug and the target has been found to be inhibits. That linguistic relationship has been pulled out. And so you've been able to take that unstructured text and turn it into a triple subject, verb, object, or a concept, relationship, concept pattern, where you can then use that semantically normalized phrase to load into a database. Your linguistic processing, your natural language and your ontologist has been able to transform that unstructured piece of text into a structured set of information that can be further used. And in my next slide, you'll see that what NLP enables, what I2E, our NLP tool enables, is that transformation from unstructured data, both in healthcare and life sciences, into these insights. So on the left-hand side of this schematic, we've got sort of visuals representing documents, metadata, domain knowledge. Obviously, in the Novo Nordisk case, we're going to be talking about the Dow Jones documents with the Dow Jones vocabularies and I2E vocabularies as well. And then we can create business rules or sophisticated queries to search for what are the key facts you might be interested in. And the little data table in the center, this is a healthcare example actually, where we're looking through pathology reports to find tumor dimensions. And you can imagine that that's really valuable information, being able to get the dimension sizes of any particular tumor to say, is that patient going to cross a threshold and be someone for whom we must act really quickly? So you can use that structured data either just to look at it in a tabular form. You can plot graphs on the right-hand side. You can put it into machine learning models, predictive risk models, or load it into data warehouses to combine with structured data from elsewhere. So the bottom line is natural language processing based text mining provides you with the capability to, in large volumes, look through unstructured text, scientific reports or patents or health records, and transform that into the structured facts that you need, thinking back to that drug discovery development pipeline to get your answers for your decision support. And your overall goals here are to reduce your cost, to reduce your manual processing, to improve care, to reduce risk. So my last slide in this little section is really just to mention that, again, thinking about the different data sources that our customers come to us. At the top, you can see a little snippet of some results from scientific literature. So this is looking for genes or proteins that have some kind of biomarker type relationships with the disease. Here we're looking for breast cancer. But we have customers, so in the bottom now, using, again, this text mining power to extract key information from patents, electronic health records, safety reports, internal reports, drug labels, clinical trials. And you can see in the snippet at the bottom, this is actually from some Dow Jones news, where we're trying to pull out information around particular pharmaceutical companies and potential mergers and acquisitions. And we're actually pulling out the numerics for the dollar value. So I know that was a lot of information to take in, but hopefully that gave our audience the sort of overview of the power of using this natural language processing based text mining to take unstructured text, whether it's in big documents or news feeds or even Twitter feeds, and transform that into something that you can use for decision support.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that overview, Jane. That provides great context around understanding some of the capabilities that are required to unlock insights from unstructured text. And it's actually a great segue into our case study at Novo Nordisk. So that raises a really interesting question. So Solmaz, a question for you. How do the data and technology capabilities that Jane just described align with and enable some of the business priorities and key processes at Novo Nordisk?
Yeah, so as Jane touched upon, the information need across the pipeline of exploring an idea and actually reaching the market and helping the patient is quite varied. While scientists require scientific literature, patents information, during the development and commercialization phases, medical, social, and news information fills the landscape. And they all come in a variety of levels of structure. So in some terms, we're looking at medical health records, which are sort of unstructured. And in cases, we're looking at scientific literature, where things are being said, but in a variation of ways. But back to our mission to change the lives of millions of people, it's quite important to realize that out of the 10,000 good ideas that the scientists might have, only one of them reaches the market, and in a process that takes up to 10 to 15 years. So having that in the back of our heads, having the accurate information in a timely and tangible manner helps us getting the good ideas tested and validated for ultimate efficiency. In Novo Nordisk, our department, Global Information Analysis, is aiming to be trusted business partners delivering innovative information services and critical insights across the pipeline. So we help our colleagues across the organization. And we like to think that we succeed by doing so, by using text mining technologies and constantly innovating the way we work. We collaborate with the best solution providers and information providers, such as Linguamatics and Dow Jones. And we've been doing this for more than 10 years. We push you guys, and on top of that, we push the publishers to allow us to do more text mining and to strive to build a simple landscape where we can focus on delivering what our users need rather than orchestrating data integrations. So to answer your question, what the role of the news data is, may I say that the role of the data isn't as important as the role of how the insights from the data is delivered. With shifting markets and a competitive landscape, having the right insights will help our commercial end of the organization make better decisions timely, so and making the shift of changes that is needed.
Thanks, Solmaz. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about your news data strategy and how you first identified news as a source of competitive intelligence data and how you then further developed this strategy?
Sure. Our news data strategy has been developed in parallel with our general data and IT infrastructure strategy, all under the sort of housing of text mining. Broadly speaking, doing everything we can to keep things simple and agile. And when it comes to data, there's actually two factors here. We choose to work with trusted business partners, and we sort of accept that we won't need it all. These are two key elements. We have a good track of successful collaborations with Dow Jones, and quite frankly, we'd rather push you as a trusted business partner to deliver us information we could use for text mining purposes, rather than find new information brokers. We trust the quality, we have a good relationship, and that's quite essential to us. The essence is not to have to go through new learning curves, which is often the case when you build a new relationship with a new business partner, but also trusting that the quality we receive from you has always been good, and we sort of don't want to risk that, especially not when we're doing text mining and delivering important information to people. So with this 10 years plus experience of text mining, we've learned that when it comes to data quality, it speaks higher than quantity. And not having all the data, but stripping it down to the level of need-to data, we not only minimize the data extraction, transformation, and also loading into a system like I2E, but it also optimizes the text mining query. So having large indexes, the processes Jane was describing, the bigger the index gets, the more comprehensive the querying gets as well, and things become a bit too complicated for their own good. We dare to say that we sort of move away from the buzz of orchestrating multiple data sources and systems, and instead focus on the text mining, what the information scientists do best. Working with news as a source of competitive intelligence have been in our pipeline for quite a long time, actually. High quality data has just not been available, to be honest with you. And we've been discussing text mining with Dow Jones for a good couple of years, but it's only with the release of DNA that it actually could happen. So we're quite happy.
Excellent. Thank you, Solmaz. And in terms of the news and technology, or the news data and technology ecosystem, do you mind kind of unpacking some of the components of that ecosystem for us?
Sure, I'll try to not to get too IT-ish. So to describe it simply, what we aim to do is to put the information scientist first. You'd be surprised to hear how much time the information scientists have to put on IT and consultant management just to make a simple text mining project happen. There's pure studies showing that 40 to 60% of the information scientist's time is spent on data cleaning and integration. And that's a ridiculous portion when what they're meant to do is text mining. So in our news data and technology ecosystem, and this is a very simple case because of the partnership made already by the two providers, we can allow ourselves to strip down a lot of the potential lost time for information scientists and have them focus on the actual project. Dow Jones provides us data prepared as an index directly in our preferred tool I2E, and this way the information scientist, just in this case, can focus on the data architecture. So let's say he would want to add internal data sources or additional source documents to this little data lake he can build with the tool. He only needs to decide, does this go out to the cloud, or is this internal and sort of sensitive data that needs to stay in the on-premise solution of ours? Because the thing is, once you have a solution in place with a couple of prototype use cases, you need to start convincing the organization that this is what they need and have them ask the questions that you can help them answer with. And that's what we believe is where the time should be spent, and not on the IT bit.
Excellent. Thank you, Solmaz. In terms of looking at data providers, what did you look for in the case of your competitive intelligence work, not just for data, but also software services when you were commencing this particular project?
Quite bluntly, a data provider that provides high quality and consistent data. So no cleaning left for us to worry about. When they say this is the format, we can only trust that that is the format. And when it comes to the software service, it's the agility and how easy it is to integrate with new data sources. Ideally, the two partners can collaborate directly, so there's no need for a third involvement. And this is, again, not to keep mentioning it, that this is why the partnership's been so important for us, because we really didn't have to do much. You two, as our suppliers, made us feel that we were in good hands, and that's unfortunately not always something we can count on. And that's again going back to having trusted business partners with a long-term relationship. You can allow yourself as a customer to put yourself in the center. And the thing is, within ever-growing information and technology landscape, there's loads of players out there who are shouting out promises to us. And I think, like any other business market, it's quite important to use your experience and have a sensible level of skepticism when it comes to offers from the market.
Right. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Thomas. That provides some great context around the role of news in text mining, and also the role of technology enabling some of your key priorities at Novo Nordisk. But it raises a really interesting question. So, Jez, Solmaz touched on your role as a business information scientist. How did you assess the value of Dow Jones DNA and Linguamatics to ensure they were a good fit for your priorities at Novo Nordisk?
Well, that's an interesting question, actually, and I might be echoing some of the things that Solmaz has already touched upon, but that's only because some of the points are actually very important to nail down. In Novo Nordisk, we believe in the power of text mining, but one of the prerequisites for doing text mining is to have data that fits into that strategy. So getting data for text mining, we have found, can be quite a complex, cumbersome, and sometimes even expensive affair. So we always must weigh pros and cons, and if it's worth the hassle of actually acquiring this data. So that's also when we heard that Dow Jones and Linguamatics, that you had teamed up, we saw a great opportunity for acquiring data from two trusted partners that we have had a long-standing partnership with for many years. One of the main reasons why we believe that text mining can be beneficial on news data is also that it can help us cut through some of the noise that comes from news data, and at the same time give us the opportunity to empower our users. With Factiva DNA comes the possibility for us to create a controlled environment of information where we can bring some intelligence to the data. DNA enables us to do dashboards to our visualization tool and make that information accessible to our users internally. Dashboards of this type also hold the immense benefit of empowering our users and give them the opportunity to slice and dice in the information as they see fit. And by doing so, bring some intelligence to the otherwise static information that you sometimes get from news data of this type.
Thank you, Jez. And you talked about your dashboarding project. Do you mind giving us a little bit of an overview or breaking down some of the components of that project and some of the key objectives that you had?
Sure. Well, I won't go into detail of what we have been doing in terms of querying. I won't tire you with those details, but it can come as a surprise that we as a pharma company, we need to be aware of what is happening within the partnership space, both in the pharma industry, but also within academia. And one of the potential benefits of using news data as a competitive intelligence source is that you can keep tab of partnership in almost real time and provide the data to the interested users as it happens. Within dashboard environments, as you can see on your screen here, we give the users the opportunity to filter on time, on company, on disease area, and also on the academic institution. This is a simple way of providing our users with information and enable our users to easier digest the information, get the information they need faster, and most importantly, don't get overburdened by information. Unless that's actually what they want. We can make that happen as well. But as Jane so eloquently showed, it is also possible through I2E to activate Linguamatics advanced and intelligent highlighting mechanism. And that makes the information that you're looking for stand out in a clear way and makes it possible for the user to get the meaning from the text quicker. And that is what we see for text mining, to save some time and save some energy, both for us, but also for our users. The combination of highlighting and making a dashboard environment adds intelligence to the data that we get from you, and that can make it a better product for our users. The combination of elements in this environment are all clickable and dynamic, and they can also, as our users navigate around in the data, that we make accessible. It is important to underline, though, that not every information need demands a dashboard solution. It really depends on a particular need. But this gives us the opportunity of enriching information through I2E and DNA, and that is why this solution is a very good one.
Thank you, Jez. It's great to see that you're using dashboards to democratize your data and make those insights available across your organization. Jez, looking forward, what do you see as most critical for an organization's success when conducting text mining initiatives?
Well, first of all, you kind of need the right people and the right setup in-house, both in terms of capabilities, but also in terms of data. With Solmaz at the helm, we have been able to get our hands on data that can help us carry out our text mining strategy. Now, I'm echoing what he already said, but it's kind of a jungle out there, and data providers are everywhere. So we need to be sharp on what data we buy, because for every conscious choice we make for data providers, we are also excluding potential valuable data. So that's where we as an organization needs to be sharp. And again, that is also why we are very delighted that Linguamatics and Dow Jones have found each other. And we very much hope that the partnership that you set up now will be a long-lasting one, because that helps us a lot. Most of all, just we don't have to go through data providers that we don't know with the potential problems it can give us. And for both partners, I can only say keep doing what you're doing now, because it's very good. But stick to what you do best. Don't diverse your portfolio just for the sake of it. In terms of Linguamatics, for us, it is about keep developing your ontologies and your product, as you've been doing all along. Within life sciences, you already have several very good ontologies, but we would very much like if you could expand within news and business areas as well. The ontologies you already have included for organizations and academic institutions within your product is very good, and it's very helpful for me as a searcher. But if you could keep adding ontologies of that type to your product and keep them updated, that would make it even easier for me to do my querying. Ultimately, the data is of course the key, and the higher quality of data we have at our disposal, without having to go through different indexes and sources, the easier it will be for us to extract insights and ultimately save us a lot of time and energy. So for Dow Jones, please keep expanding the number of quality sources at our disposal through DNA. Keep getting partners to your business so that ultimately Factiva DNA will be, for me, a one-stop shop for doing all my querying within the news data environment.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jez, for those words of advice. Jane, is there anything you would like to add to some of the comments that Jez had made?
So I just wanted to say, I think this has been a great view of one particular aspect of using that combination of tools and data, as Jez just highlighted. And I think if we think there's a real buzz at the minute around how to apply artificial intelligence, how to apply machine learning right now. And I think, this use case shows that, pharma can access the benefits of NLP, which is an AI technology, for solutions to reduce that manual effort of, getting information out of full text. And as you saw, making it beautiful with those dashboards, which means that those end users that Jez and Solmaz are serving, they get something that's really easy to digest, really easy to understand, and helps with that decision. And behind the scenes, there's the technology, the NLP, the ontologies, the data, but the end user doesn't need to see that. All that's been transformed into something that they can then really easily get value from.
Thank you very much, Jane, for your thoughts. So for those of you who are not aware, and who may not be familiar with Dow Jones DNA, DNA is Dow Jones Data as a Service platform, which actually contains one of the world's largest corpus of premium news content from thousands of sources, including the Wall Street Journal and spans close to 30 years. It covers topics including economics, finance, and business. And all of the data contained within the DNA is cleansed, normalized, and deduplicated using our own content ingestion process, which includes the application of Dow Jones' own proprietary taxonomy to deliver that high-quality content that is essential for text and data mining initiatives, as Solmaz and Jez have highlighted. Our programmatic delivery methods for DNA are both flexible and scalable to meet the needs of organizations. Our Snapshots API service provides high volumes of data in a batch mode. Our streaming API service provides near real-time feeds. And our RESTful transactional APIs provide the ability to retrieve and display both full text articles in addition to the ability to look up company and people data as well. So that's a brief overview of Dow Jones DNA. So now I'd like to move into our Q&A portion of today's webinar. So I encourage all participants to take the opportunity to ask our wonderful panelists questions from today's presentation, but I do ask that they are submitted by the chat function of the webinar. So again, Jane, Solmat, and Jez, thank you so much for making time for us today, and I look forward to taking on some of the questions that are being posed. Right, so I have one question that I would like to ask. Just a question for you, Jane, just to kick us off. What's the single piece of advice you'd offer companies in the life sciences industry looking to embark upon a text mining project?
That's a really good question, actually, because again, we have people coming and saying, you know, how do I start applying AI, NLP? And I think the key issue to think of is try and pick a use case where you know you have a headache. You know that you have people doing manual curation of literature, doing manual review of regulatory submissions, doing manual reading of patents, you know, for Dow Jones and Novo, obviously manually trying to pull out the information from news. So it may be that you know that there's a bottleneck in safety assessment. You know there's a bottleneck in finding the right key opinion leaders for a particular area, or looking for epidemiology data. Pick something where you know that you have a specific pain point, and then if you can identify one of those pain points, then I almost guarantee we can work with you to help reduce that pain, improve the speed of processing, improve the data quality, improve the reach, discover new things because of using text analytics. But it's picking one area to say, like, let's take one bite at the cherry, not try to boil the whole ocean.
Thank you, Jane. I think that's a fantastic piece of advice in terms of starting small and scaling. And I know that both Solmaz and Jez referred to that strategy as being pivotal in driving adoption within Novo Nordisk. Jez, I've got a question for you. As a business information scientist, what are your recommendations for managing executive expectations for information and data science initiatives?
Well, that is an ongoing challenge also for us, also because it's not always too easy to explain what text mining is about, especially not to upper management. And that is also why for us, stakeholder management is kind of key for getting the best out of our data setup. Because we kind of believe that we are sharp on the data that we have, but we also need our stakeholders to be sharp on what they want. And then it's up to us in collaboration with each other to fill their information need. It kind of is a two-way street. So that is why communication between our stakeholders and ourselves is of utmost importance, so that you don't overpromise or underpromise for that matter, just to find the right balance. And it is an iterative process where you need to go back and forth all the time, because we can cover a lot of information needs within data setup that we have. We believe we can anyways, but we need input from our stakeholders to make sure we provide them with the right information that can help them answer the questions they have. Within data science, there can be a tendency to exaggerate the level of complexity that data science initiatives can answer. Whether it is machine learning, AI, or in this case, text mining, it is not like it's a magic bowl that can provide you with the right information for every question in the world. Text mining can help us do more advanced querying. It can extract more insights. It can do all these things more quickly. And it also gives us more freedom to play with the data we have at our disposal. But it is important to tell our management that information and data science initiatives is not always straightforward, and that we as information scientists, we can be hampered by the data setup that we have. That is also why the data is of utmost importance to actually succeed within this area. The better the data setup that we have, the more complex questions we can potentially answer, and through this actually provide value to the organization.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that valuable insight, Jez. Because as we all will appreciate, managing those expectations are as critical as the results in and of themselves. So I'd now actually like to open it up to questions from those listening in to today's webinar. So the first question I actually have is from Cosmin. So Cosmin, thank you very much for submitting your question. The question here is really focused on the fact that this presentation was very much aligned to the pharma industry's use of natural language processing. And the question is, what other industries do you see as early adopters of this? Now, I might tackle that question myself to start off with, but obviously, Jane, I know that you obviously look not just within your domain, but obviously we're thinking more broadly about what you're seeing in other adjacent industries as well. So I'll also give you a chance to respond if you'd like as well. But Cosmin, from my perspective, the applications of NLP are quite broad. And there are obviously quite a range of industries. So there's probably also kind of the more horizontal use cases as well, which tend to span multiple industries. So for example, if I think about the use of NLP in capital markets or in financial services, which is another key sector and focus for us here at Dow Jones, and we have a number of customers in the capital market space who leverage DNA. We have NLP being used to identify key critical events that relate to specific companies that an organization may be following or may be investing in as a particular asset class. And we find natural language processing being used to identify, for example, mergers and acquisition activity. We also find NLP being used to identify specific risk events related to companies within a portfolio. So, for example, looking specifically at credit risk or events that are leading indicators of credit risk. So we find NLP being used in those instances in capital markets. But as a horizontal use case, we also find NLP being used for horizontal use cases such as competitive intelligence, as was covered today in the life sciences industry. But competitive intelligence also encompasses some of our customers in the professional services and management consulting space as well, that we're also using NLP technologies. And I think one of the most exciting things, Cosmin, is that given where we are today and the state of the various technology platforms that are widely available from a number of technology partners, there is quite a range of choice. We have a number of clients who are using pre-trained models for natural language processing, looking specifically at areas such as sentiment. But we also have a range of clients who are building out their own NLP models, which are very domain specific as well. And we find them leveraging DNA to both train and to productionize those models too. So the applications are quite broad. And historically, the capital markets space has probably been one of the early adopters of natural language processing. But I might pass it to you, Jane, to share some of your thoughts around NLP and some of the industries outside of life sciences that are early adopters.
Yeah, well, I was interested that you mentioned mergers and acquisitions. So, I mean, within the pharma industry, obviously there's been plenty of M&As over the last couple of decades. And that is an area where, while we're still talking life science, but obviously that natural language processing can be used to look at that, sort of almost help with the due diligence. So, if there's an M&A, you're getting a huge bundle of documents. Again, there's a lot of unstructured text. So even using NLP and, that combination of ontologies, semantics, linguistics to, for example, do document metadata extraction, document tagging, looking for similar documents. And that obviously can be applied in any industry. I mean, we also, while it's still sort of broadly life sciences, we work with agrochemical companies, for example. We work with fast manufacturing consumer good companies, that kind of thing. So the key things are, when you're thinking of extracting the key facts, the main two, I mean, there are very, very many different methodologies you want to plug into your text mining tool, but you want good ontologies or dictionaries, and obviously they can be in manufacturing, they can be in crime, they can be in legal, they can be in finance, but you need to make sure you can develop those either using your tool or have those provided. And then you need those linguistics. Now that really works across the sort of being able to find the right parts of speech will work across any text, but you might want to make sure that you, so for example, I2E can work across European languages. So again, you might want to make sure that you can, again, thinking of the industry, you have the right NLP plugins, for example. But I mean, as Niranjan said, there are very many different cases. I mean, another one that springs to mind is things like voice of the customer. So very many companies from across a huge variety of industries will have people phoning in and saying, I've used your product and X, Y, Z. And the product managers want to capture those X's, those Y's, and those Z's and understand, are there themes, are there trends, how to most quickly respond, how to build a knowledge base from, customer support tickets, that kind of thing. And that can be applied across any industry.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jane, for sharing that insight. We probably have time for one last question. So we actually have a question from Katrina. So Katrina, thank you so much for your question. And Jane, this perhaps may be a question for you in the context of I2E. So the question here is, can you text mine PDF documents, XBRL and SEC filings?
So sorry, I'm scribbling notes. Yes, PDFs definitely. So we have, obviously, PDF is a format that everybody loves to hate. And we've dealt with both image PDFs, text PDFs, and yes, we have OCR. We use OCR tools within I2E in order to make sure that we can capture the best format. So particularly if you're thinking, patents might have tables. A lot of full text literature has tables. Well, a lot of PDFs. So being able to maintain the structure of the table, pull out the information in those embedded tables. SEC filings is definitely something we've dealt with. So, I mean, the actual tool itself, out of the box, comes with a huge number of different kind of converters to take JSON, HTML, XML, all sorts of different formats. And again, we can, ingest different data formats, but also we can output. So you saw that Jez and Solmaz, they're outputting in order to build dashboards. Well, you can output JSON, you can output XML, you can output CSV. So again, there's a number of different formats that you can output the results, and just to make sure that those connections at both ends of your text mining workflow can be integrated and adaptive.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jane, for your response. And Katrina, thank you very much for submitting that question. And we've had a number of questions submitted today, and we may not have the time to address all of them, but thank you for all of you who have submitted questions. So I'd now like to close. So firstly, I'd like to say thank you to our partner Linguamatics and our valued customer Novo Nordisk. So Jane, thank you very much for joining us today. And Solmaz and Jez, thank you very much for making time today as well, to all of you for being part of today's panel.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks very much.
It's been a fantastic conversation, and I know that whilst our focus has been on the life sciences space and text mining, there are some really broad applications of what we've discussed today. So really appreciate you bringing your expertise. I thank you also to everyone who's joined us for today's presentation. And thank you to those of you who have submitted questions. So I'd just like to remind you all that everyone who is listening in today will be sent a link to a recording of this webinar for future reference. So I think a number of you have asked whether or not you could have a copy of the presentation. You'll actually be sent a copy of the entire recording for your reference. So thank you very much to everyone who's joined us today, and we look forward to you joining us at future DNA webinars. So thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.